I have very mixed feelings about showing this to both of you. It is news, but it is news from the Trump administration. It's a post from the Department of Homeland Security that they put on X, advertising a tip line with a poster that reads, quote, "Help your country and yourself. Report all foreign invaders." This is your taxpayer dollars, regardless of who you voted for, if you pay taxes. Your taxes are paying for this ad being disseminated on Elon Musk's platform X that says, quote, "Help your country and yourself. Report all foreign invaders." General, did Vladimir Putin write that?
Let's talk about America now and the situation that has been playing out there for some time, particularly the riots in Los Angeles. Now, you know a lot about all of this, but let's make this nice and clear. For those that may have tuned into this story a couple of days late, maybe only paid half attention to the 6 p.m. news, let's tell you some home truths here. Much of the media would like to pretend that all of this is about one issue and one issue only.
I think a lot of people believe that we're talking about mass deportation plans that would just sort of affect undocumented immigrants. That's not true. There are 22 million people that live in mixed status families.
So the American would be deported too. That's what Tom
American
Homan
families
said.
will be deported.
The methods that this administration has deployed are extreme, threatening not just undocumented immigrants, but the entire rule of law in America.
The Trump administration is that they don't care if you're complying with the law. They are terrorizing communities and they're ambushing immigrants outside of courthouses, restaurants, workspaces.
Please, let's go back to first principles here. A country that does not police its borders is no country. It's just a place where people can come and go and hang out and do whatever they want. The reality is that the United States, like every other serious country in the world, polices its borders. It's why you've got to fill out a form before you fly to the United States. It's why you've got to apply before you move to the United States. It's why you have to apply before you can move and work in the United States. Not only so you know who's coming in, but you know how many are coming in. What is not okay is illegal immigration. When people decide no forms, no queues, bugger it, and by the millions, during the Biden years, they just simply walked over a border. And even if they were detained or met by somebody with a badge, they were more often than not let go or, as we know, bust all over the country, meaning that every city became a border city. Put simply, if by now you don't know and you don't tell people when you're talking about these issues that there is legal immigration and illegal immigration, then you are playing a very silly game. Perfect example. In the United States, for some reason, much of the establishment and access media and much of the activist media as well never use the term illegal immigration. They just say migration. pretending that somebody who didn't fill out a form, who just walked over the border, is exactly the same as the person who filled out the paperwork and waited in a queue for years. Perfect example.
Demonstrations over immigration raids.
Federal immigration rates.
Controversial immigration policies.
Immigration crackdown.
Immigration crackdown.
Federal deportation raids.
Donald Trump's immigration policy.
No, not immigration policy. Illegal immigration policy. And unbelievably, you have seen that when there was an attempt by the United States government to go and collect people who had not filled out the form, not waited in the queue, not done the right thing, that those people were being arrested. But of course, because people don't want to go, they're nabbed off the streets. They are kidnapped and all the other invective. The reality is people have been warned since day dot of this administration that if you are here illegally, go or we're going to come for you. In fact, we'll even help you fill out the forms to get out of here and we'll pay for you to get out of here. So a whole bunch of protests which started in and around downtown and the place where the Immigration Enforcement Agency is located, okay? In that place where those people were doing their job of enforcing the obvious difference between legal and illegal immigration, people started to turn up, and in the past few days we know how wild it has gotten. And the very same nasty players in the American media who say no difference between legal and illegal immigration, well, they want to pretend that there's some sort of a resistance movement that is building against a president for enforcing the obvious laws that are no different in Australia, New Zealand, Japan, Norway, or the United States. Legal or illegal immigration.
He is absolutely panicked by the protests against him, to the point where he's already playing the biggest cards that he's got, and he's not even 6 months into this term. I just think, I think we're getting the test really early, and I think that he's failing.
Now again, you can like, you can dislike, you can think it's good but Trump, bad Trump, but enforcing this law is something that even Obama talked about, okay? But just because Orange Man bad everything and they want to pretend that he's starting World War III or Civil War 2.0. But let's get to another little fact that, again, you probably didn't see on your 6 p.m. news in Australia. You barely have seen it in mainstream news in the United States, which is, you know how there's an awful lot of people that for some reason are waving the Mexican flag, particularly in the protests which started in California and now started to bounce up all around the country. Why are they doing that? Well, let's actually have a listen to one of the protesters who explains why people are waving the Mexican flag in California when the American government is enforcing who can stay because they're legal and who should go because they're not.
We've been here for thousands of years before you guys showed up, screwed up everything. We think we should organize together with the U.S. working class and fight together and create a better system. We're anti-capitalist. We think socialism does work, real socialism, not Venezuela, not Cuba, not any of that that they try to sell us as socialism. And we believe it would be a more humane system that will take care of most of all people's necessities.
Is there a country we can look to kind of model the socialism idea?
The only model would be Soviet Union the first 4 years. After that, it became a mess.
Yeah. So some of the people that are protesting because of the enforcement of the laws that, again, every president has enforced. I repeat, Obama, hundreds of thousands of deportations. He, of course, was the one who did the caging of kids, but, you know, Orange Bad, he invented all of this stuff. Some of the people that are in those protests are nothing to do with that question of legal versus illegal immigration. They're trying to, among other things, say, this isn't even America. This was Mexico. It still will remain Mexico, and eventually we can boot out the Americans and turn it back into the territorial lands of which it was before deals were done, in fact literally sold, by the Mexican government to the American government way back when. And then there's this story that you may well have heard a version of today in the Australian media.
the Los Angeles mayor has announced an almost immediate curfew after 5 straight days of unrest.
Los Angeles is in lockdown tonight. A curfew is in place across downtown LA.
Part of Los Angeles is tonight under a curfew. Those who are there are barred from being on the streets.
Because you see, it's all wildly out of control. Why? Because of Orange Man Bad deciding to send in the troops. That's the reason for the curfew. Except that's not the reason for the curfew. Even the lefty mayor, who was the one who put this curfew in a very small part of downtown, but still, all of Los Angeles is under lockdown, please. Anyway, the reason that's the case is because of the looting that took place over the multiple days of the protests, which apparently were about this, but as I've just shown you, really could be about that. And please explain how the enforcement of immigration law means this is okay. Crazy. And again, the far left mayor of Los Angeles, who couldn't be a bigger Trump hater, actually explains, and did you see this in much of the Australian media today? The curfew has nothing to do with the immigration stuff. It has to do with the psychos that are running from shop to shop, bashing things in.
I have declared a local emergency and issued a curfew for downtown Los Angeles to stop the vandalism, to stop the looting.
Sorry? Did you hear Donald Trump in any of that? Did you hear the migration policies in any of that? Again, even let's imagine, and it's not true, but let's imagine the first day was about the migration. This clearly just became the free-for-all for anyone who wanted to do whatever the heck they wanted. Well, thankfully, the curfew seems to have worked. And again, spare a thought for the poor men and women who have to enforce the law when they're up against craziness like what you have seen, reinforced by a political class who, for whatever reason, think there is no difference between legal and illegal, but I guarantee live in gated communities, or if they don't, they've got 4 locks on their doors and most likely a security guard who's guarding it each and every night in the mayor's mansion or the governor's mansion or Pelosi's house. And all of these people, again, fired up by a media that wants to pretend there's no difference between somebody who waited in line and somebody who just jumped the queue. Well, thankfully, the LAPD have got control of their city tonight.
There was a large group in front of the federal building, upwards of 700 protesters wrapping up their night and swiftly made their way out of the downtown area with only a few stragglers to speak of.
Again, I get millions of people don't like Donald Trump. The majority of Australians don't like Donald Trump. But for goodness sake, illegal versus legal immigration, not a hard concept for people to get their head around. And those who want to bury their head in the sand or just lie to people, including those who are reporting about it on the other side of the world, fair dinkum.